Two people are double. बराबर आ एकदम बराबर आ श्योर
accept this notification, but the basis
change the resolution of this that is the reason it is not completed your laptop is duplicate option mine is not this here you
potential basis.
what about kitchen right hello can you hear me all of you hello 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 can you hear me Mohammed
Yes, yes.
okay okay we'll start it
Yes, yes, sir.
we'll start in 2 3 minutes we'll start the session in 2 3 minutes is it okay all of you
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
fine yes I muted we'll start the session in 5 minutes I just give the message hope you can all hear me Shall we start, all of you?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So from today onwards, we are going to discuss about the Linux administration course, which is completely depending on the Red Hat distributor. Like in a
Okay.
Windows, we are having a distributor called Microsoft, right? In a Microsoft, we are having number of operating systems like
Yes.
2012, 2016, 8, 10, 7, client server editions. Like the way in the Linux also we are having different versions, and the distributor we are using is Red Hat. Like in a Windows, we are having a one distributor which is called Microsoft. So in the Microsoft also, I think you people know, we are having a different certifications are available. Experts, administrator level, different certifications are there. Like the way in the Linux also in the Red Hat, we are having a different certifications are available. And those certifications are, we are having is RHCSA, Red Hat Certified System Administrator. In this, if you look at, you're having a two modules like 124, 134. The next certification it comes is RSCE. In this, we are having a one more module called RH254. Got it? So in our session, we are going to discuss about all these modules like RSCSA and RSCE, and we are going to cover almost all the three modules like RH124, RH134 and RH254. So above one, RSCSA nothing but Red Hat Certified System Administrator. RSCE means Red Hat Certified Engineer. Okay. So in the Zoom, I think you people know, we are having a two types of Linux different courses. One is core Linux, and one more we are having is advanced Linux. Got it? So in the package, if you have joined MCSC, CCNA, hardware, and Linux, you will be getting core Linux. But apart from the core Linux, we are also having a one separate other course available, which is called Advanced Linux. In Advanced Linux, we are going to discuss some of the topics which is beyond to this RSCE. These are the starting certifications to be fact. In Red Hat, in Linux, we are having different other certifications even. So in the Advanced Linux, we are going to particularly discuss about those other distributions and other certifications. So that knowledge is very much helpful you to work easily in the live environment as a Linux administrator like experienced person, or also to qualify not only these exams but also some other 423 for triple three other modules. But in our 15 days of curriculum, in our sessions, we are going to discuss all the three modules. Got it? Some of the topics are going to be covered in Advanced Linux also. So like after we complete this, this will be complete by 29th of March. From 30th of March, the other Advanced Linux new course will start. In fact, today also it is getting started in evening. Again from 30th onwards, it will be in morning. So if you are well prepared, well practiced about this in our sessions all, then you are easily able to understand Advanced Linux also. So when we speak about the Linux operating systems, first of all you should know about the distributions, flavors, installation. In this all the like points we are going to discuss in our today's session. And to learn this Linux operating system, user need not to have mandatory to have a knowledge on Windows or CCNA. Even if you have directly joined for Linux also, no problem. We can easily go ahead with the topics. And my name is Santosh Gaikwad. I'm one of the team member of Zoom working in like Linux department since 12 years. I also done this maximum certifications in this. So apart from this, our curriculum also, if you require any other help in Linux, okay, you can approach to me. So today is the first day. We are going to focus on some objectives like kernel, operating systems, distributions, flavors, features, and installation. Tomorrow we are going to discuss basic commands, how to operate OS using commands. Day after tomorrow, how to modify the files, then users, groups administration, then permission policies, group policies, partitions, taking backup of partitions, increasing partition size, and restoring the data using range and char commands. Once it is done, then we are going to focus on server side. In the server side, we are going to discuss how can we install packages, applications on Linux, how can we configure data sharing servers like NFS and FTP, how to configure web server, DNS server, mail server, DHCP server, YAML server, and webin configuration. These are the concepts overall we are going to cover in our 15 days. Once we done this, then advance will come. Advance is purely depend on the server administration. Every day in advance we are going to discuss for one new server. Approximately 34 to 36 topics are there. In that we are going to do. So if you do Linux plus advanced Linux with Zoom technologies, easily you are able to work on any server on Linux. Okay. So when we talk about any subject in our regular classes, if you have any query, if you require any clarification, if you have any doubt, please feel free to interrupt me and ask the question. If you have any problem with the language, no problem. You can ask the question in Telugu or Hindi. But make sure before we complete the session, your all the doubts are clarified. And every day try to complete the practicals in the labs. We are having 2 hours labs. Either you come before the class by 12 o'clock, 12 to 2 you do, or after the class 4 to 5:30, 6 o'clock, whenever systems are free you can do. My labs will be open every day by 7, will be closed by 11. In between this, whenever you find time, apart from your regular practicals time, if you want to do more practicals, you always welcome and do. Okay. So when we speak about any operating system, technically every operating system is known as kernel. Okay. Kernel nothing but a logical mechanism of the OS, which is also called heart of the OS. Which is also called heart of the OS. What is Linux? What is Unix? Understand? So Unix is the name of the kernel. Unix is not a operating system. Linux is also a name of the kernel. It is not a operating system. In Linux we are having a many operating systems. Among all, we are going to discuss about, as I said just now to you, the operating system called what here? The operating system called RHEL, and the version is 7. Got it? RHEL stands for Red Hat Enterprise Linux version 7. It is the latest version of the vendor called Red Hat. Red Hat is a distributor. The hierarchy is something like first kernel comes. Kernel, what we are discussing? Linux. In Linux we are having so many distributions. I will tell you in detail now. One of the distribution we are using is Red Hat. In Red Hat we are having so many versions. We are discussing the latest version called what? RHEL 7. First of all, you should know regarding what you are learning. So first we are learning about kernel. Kernel is Linux. In Linux, what is the distribution? Red Hat. In Red Hat, what is the version? RHEL 7. Okay. So the kernel is nothing but, it is the core of the OS. Core nothing but heart of the OS. Whenever you perform any task, any command, any program on the operating system, not only Linux, Windows, Macintosh, Novell, Solaris, AIX, any operating system, internally that function will be controlled by the kernel. Whenever you talk about operating system, technically every operating system is classified in 4 layers. First layer is user, who will operate it. And to operate it, you require account. Like in Windows, we are having an account called administrator, super user account by default. Like the way in Linux, by default, there is an account comes with the name called root, ROOT. Root is the administrator of Linux. So when you operate the OS, first layer is user, second layer is shell, third layer is kernel, fourth layer is hardware. Okay, so user level means we are all. You may be working like a root or you may be working like a normal user. But when you execute the command on the OS, the command always it will go to the shell first. Either you execute command or you operate OS on graphical. In Windows you will operate on graphical. Right click you do, you select option create folder. So folder will create. Are you getting me? Same thing in Linux, we will execute command. But technically in both the cases, we will execute command only. In Windows there is option given. Commands can be executed with the help of mouse. But in Linux, we are executing commands directly with the help of keyboards. When you say right click, create folder means in a background it will run command, make directory. Are you getting me? But in both the cases, always user use the human readable language. If I say mkdir folder name zoom, if I say right click create folder and if I rename the folder with zoom, I will be using the human readable language. My system language might be Telugu, Hindi, English, Kannada, anything. Are you getting me? But at last user identify which language? Human readable. But OS will not be understand human readable. That is the reason whenever you execute the command always it goes to where here shell. Shell function is to convert your input from human readable to where machine, a binary language, to make understand to the OS. Then your input will go to where kernel. Now kernel will do the technical function on the command. Kernel first function is after receiving the command, kernel verify whether command made for what purpose. What is the purpose of the command? Is it to create a file? Is it to create a folder? Yes, please. Is it to install application? Is it to shut down the OS? Based on that command, it will verify the command. I mean, the command made is mkdir. The purpose of the command is create folder. But is it a valid command or invalid command? I mean, correct command or incorrect command? Actual command is mkdir. But in the place of mkdir, if I give mkdir, nk, it will be a what? Incorrect command. So immediately I will get answer is what? Command not found. So that answer will be verified by which component? Kernel. Got it? And it will always allocate RAM memory and process IDs. Then it will forward to where? Hardware. Hardware will verify all the hardware input and output devices. Then it will get back to kernel. Kernel will send to shell. Now shell convert from where? Human readable to where? Sorry, binary to where? Human readable. Like the way the operating system always do work. Something here. See here. Here in the first example, I said the username is what here? Root. Okay. Root executed one command called what? mkdir. This is to create a folder. This input when it comes to the shell. In Linux we are having a shell name is what? Bin and bash. Every OS has its own shell. Like in the Windows there is a shell called PowerShell. Like the way in the Linux we are having a shell called what? Bin bash, binary born against shell. The function of the shell to do what? Convert human readable language into where? Binary. And it will forward to where? Kernel. Don't write, I'll give time to write. Have a look on this. Then in the Linux, there is a default application of kernel which is called what? VM Linux. Are you getting me? The function of the kernel is it verify the purpose, it verifies the command provided correct or incorrect, it allocate RAM memory, it schedules the process. Then it will forward to where? Hardware. Hardware will check all the hardware and input output devices such as printers and desks, and it will get back this output to kernel. Kernel will get back output to shell. Shell will convert again from binary language to where? Human readable, and it will forward to where here? User. Okay. So we are discussing about regarding which kernel? Linux. So every kernel, the function is same, but kernels might be different. In Linux, we are using the kernel version called 3.10 in RHEL 7 version. This is a technical knowledge you require in a matter of qualifying the interview. Which kernel you are using in Windows? You must know. Which kernel you are using in router OS? Which kernel you are using on Linux? 3.10. What is the operating system you are using? RHEL. What is the version of that? 7. In RHEL 8 coming, you may be going to get 4.5 kernel version. Still other operating system kernels are in 2.0 series only. But in Linux, now we are having 3.0. It is one of the strongest ever created kernel we are using in the Linux. And Linux kernel is open source kernel. Which kernel? Open source. We will have discussion on this. You please go ahead by copying this once. Make a heading, Linux administration, write down heading, function of operating kernel, function of kernel, and please do this copy. Can you hear me, all of you now? Any problem in the voice?
Yes, we are facing a little bit breakage.
From my end, it is okay.
4324 5555 280.
Please do this copy. Once you relog in, those who may be having the voice issue. The difference between VM Linux and VM Linux is same. There is no difference. Just it is VM Linux means it is a compressed application. VM Linux means it is an uncompressed application. Z means compressed one. X means without compressed one. Okay, Ravichandran.
I'm not interested.
Please mute your mics, all of you. Done this, all of you? And you also copy this. It convert binary language into human readable language. What? Done? All of you completed this? Now, we will put a focus on the kernels of Linux and Unix. Just now we have discussed the function of the kernel. Like in the IT world, if you look at, we are having a kernels of Unix and Linux. So in the Linux and Unix kernels cases, Unix was the first kernel designed in the IT world. After the Unix kernel, then the Linux kernel designed. But now we are all familiar with the name of the Unix. But in the Unix, if you look at, we are also having some kernels with the names like Unix and Multics. Now we are having a kernels called what? We are discussing about Unix. We are all familiar with the word of Unix. But before Unix, it was Unix. Before this, it was Multics. Okay. Multics stands for Multiplexed Information and Computing System. Unix stands for Uniplexed Information and Computing System. So in the year called 1965, don't write anything, I'll give time to write. In the year called 1965, the vendors like MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, GE, General Electricals, and one more is AT&T, American Telephone and Telegraphs. AT&T, GE, and MIT. These were the three popular vendors in 1965 designed one kernel with the name called Multics. But the kernel they designed 100% on assembly language. The Multics drawbacks was the Multics kernel designed 100% on assembly language equal to machine language. Quite difficult for a normal user to work in that project, to operate that kernel. It was the reason the Multics in between the process of creating itself, it was dropped. After that kernel called Multics, the next kernel called Unic was designed. Unic kernel was designed by Ken Thompson with the help of, yes please, with the help of C language, right? But still the Unic kernel was designed 80% on C language, but again 20% on assembly language. Because of that 20%, the next project called Unic kernel, even it was dropped. But later in the year called 1973, the Unix kernel rewritten 100% on C language and then released with the name called what? Unix. Got it? So now the Unix kernel, Linux kernel, if you look at, all is designed on which language? C language. So this is how this way the kernels was designed. First Multix, second Unix, third Unix. Now in a market using kernel is what? Unix. After that kernel created, the different vendors from different places, the popular vendors, took the source code, I mean the kernel code of Unix kernel, and every vendor has created their own operating system. Because Unix and Linux both are what? Open source kernels. Today we are learning about the OS. Tomorrow in future, if you perfect in this subject, not only you can use it, but also you can create your new operating system also. You can give your own name also. Because it is a what? Open source. It is not like a Microsoft. Microsoft is not a open source kernel. The kernel code is not a published in the internet. But this kernel is a what? Free of cost available. You can use it, you can customize it, you can create your new OS. So in the Unix, if you look at, as I mentioned you just now, Multix, Unix and Unix. Got it? First it was Multix, 100% on assembly language. Second it was Unix, 80% on C language, 20% on assembly language. Next is what? Unix, 100% on C language. And these are the vendors who took the source code of Unix kernel and they designed their own operating systems. You can see we are having the vendor AT&T Bell Labs. They created their own operating system called what? Sys3 and Sys5. Like that way, Sun created their own operating system called what? Solaris. So Solaris is an operating system of Unix kernel. Unix is not an operating system. Unix is a what? Kernel. If somebody working like a Unix administrator means he might be working on any one of this OS. He might be working on Solaris operating system. He might be working on AIX developed by IBM. Iris developed by SG. SCO Unix developed by SCO. FreeBSD, BSD vendor. HP Unix, HP. Are you getting all of you? So like that way, the Unix kernels spread across the world because Unix is the what? Open source kernel. The people who took the source code, they created their own operating system. The difference between Unix kernel and Linux kernel is this is one of that. What the kernel you can see, AT&T Bell Labs designed their own operating system for what? Sys3 and Sys5. And Sun designed their own operating system called what? Solaris. Solaris, if you want to install Solaris operating system, you require the recommended hardware, the dedicated hardware. Solaris recommended hardware is what? Sun machine. There we have one machine in the lab, first machine. Sun machines you need to purchase. On normal machines you can't install. For practice purpose in domestic cases you may install because the latest version like Solaris 10 available. But when you talk about doing a project, in a project site, recommended hardware always should be utilized. Each hardware computer may cost you in terms of lakhs. If you require 1000 users means 1000 computers you need to purchase first. Are you getting me? If you want to install AIX, you need to buy all IBM computers. AIX cannot be installed on our normal computers like Intel or AMD like that. Like the way IRIX to install SG you require, SCO Unix to install SCO you require, BSD to install BSD you require, HP Unix to install HP you require. But Linux is independent to hardware. That is the reason in the project areas Linux will be used more. Because when you talk about getting or doing projects back to back, I am doing my present project on AIX. I bought 1000 IBM computers for 1000 users. But next project I want to do it on Solaris. I need to replace all IBM computers with what? Sun machines. unnecessary expenses will be taken to exchange the hardwares. But if that project, if I do it on Linux means, for me need not to have any expenses over on purchasing the hardware. I can install all the machine operating system on all the hardware. Okay, you please copy this once, then we'll move ahead. History of Unix, you copy this. I think you people know. Let me to again inform you. If you are using mobile Android operating system, from the Play Store you can download Zoom app. Zoom Technologies, you type in Play Store. Zoom app will come. No registration, nothing is required. In the Zoom app application, no, you can access this books also online. Not only for Linux, for advanced Linux also it is there. Cisco also it is there. Security also it is there. For all the subjects it is there. I mean to say, when the class goes, if you forgot sometimes to bring your books, you can go through with the slide order. If you have mobile now, try now once. Anyway, Geo is there. Go to Play Store, type Zoom Technologies, that application will come. Then in that you can access all the books. And if you want, you can purchase it hard copies also from the front office. This copy is available only for 100 rupees. So it avoid writing to you. First one is multi, second is unique. Unique from Uniplex Information Computing System. Uniplex. Yes, Uniplex Uniplex Information and Computing System. See, this is the book. 100 rupees it is. You can purchase from the office, or you have other option is from the Play Store. You can download Zoom app. In that you will get the soft copy of this, complete soft copy. But that is only you can use in online mode. That is not for downloading. Okay. If you need a permanent hard copy like this, 100 rupees it is. You can buy. Lab manual is separate, and course presentation is separate. There are two books, 100 rupees and 100 rupees. Done all of you? Please do this also. First one is AT&T Bell Labs, American Telephone and Telegraph. Second, Sun Stanford University Network, IBM International Business Machine Corporation.
Hello? No voice.
IBM, AIX. Second one also IRIS. Done this all of you? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Sound okay. Yeah, okay now.
Fine. Fine. Done? Now, the next one is, please mute the mic. So it's mute. The next one is about the Linux history. You also please do this copy. So like the way the units designed by a different vendors, like that way the Linux kernel designed by an individual person called Linus Torvalds in the year 1990, and he gave that OS kernel to the OSF. You please do this copy. We'll go ahead with that. You have already attended sessions. You have already attended sessions. Yes. The user administration notes are there. That's fine. Then why not complete it then? Why not complete it that time? here. So as I said you that in the Unix kernel case, we are having a different operating systems which is created by different vendors. So these are all the operating systems belongs to Unix kernel. In a similar order, there is a separate kernel created by Torvalds, the Linus Torvalds, and he gave that kernel code to the OSF, which is nothing but a separate organization which can provide more popularity to the Linux operating systems. And again, the same thing repeated in the Linux in the year called 1990 onwards. The people, the vendors who want to have their own Linux operating systems, they started off taking the Linux source code from the OSF, and every vendor has designed their own operating system. These are some of the examples of the vendors. You can see we are having a vendors called what here? Red Hat, Ubuntu, Turbo Linux, SUSE, Debian, Slackware, Puppy Linux, Backtrack, Linux Mandrake, Boss, and last one is Kali Linux. Don't write anything. So these are the some major examples of what Linux distributions. But to be fact, in the Linux platforms, at present we are having thousands of distributions. Among these all, as I said you at the beginning of the session, we are discussing about the distribution called what? Red Hat. You can also go ahead with SUSE, Mandriva, Mandrake, Ubuntu, Turbo Linux, any other distribution. We are discussing about Red Hat because the reason is in the live environment projects, Red Hat would be used quite more because Red Hat is quite good at security, quite good at operations on GUI as well as on CLI modes. But in the live environment, if you look at, apart from Red Hat, SUSE and Ubuntu also will be used quite more. But Ubuntu mostly used at client side, not at server side. In fact, in Ubuntu also server version is available, but still it is popularly using in client side. You can see Backtrack, Kali Linux, Slackware. These are the operating systems mainly used for hacking. Everything in the IT world depends on Linux. Either you learn hacking, or you learn security, or you learn networking, or you learn administration part. First of all, it is recommended for you to know about Linux. In router also by default OS you will get is Linux. BSD as said. FreeBSD is an inbuilt operating system of maximum routers in IT world. Indirectly we will be always using the Linux operating system only. In the firewalls also you will be getting the Linux operating system. So what I mean to say, in the Linux why we are having this many distributions? Because Linux is an open source. After creating the kernel, different vendors started off taking the source code. Every vendor has created their own operating system. They distributed in the public world. As per the requirement, we can use it. If you don't know any official website, Google Friend is there. Free download Linux for Ubuntu. Free download Linux for Red Hat. Free download Linux for Slackware. That distribution OS you will be able to download at free of cost. Got it? But among this all, we are focusing on this distribution I said Red Hat. So either you go with Red Hat, Ubuntu, Slackware, Mandrake, Mandriva, Kali Linux, Backtrack. In every distributions, there are two types of versions present. First version is commercial. Commercial means you need to buy. www.redhat.com. If you go to that official website, you will be having the option to purchase it. No, at free of cost I want to download. Then Red Hat free of cost versions you have to download. The difference is if you purchase that OS, you will be expect support in future. If something went wrong in the network in future. Are you getting me? If you have valid license, the vendor will support you. Say now suppose for example, unexpectedly I lost my server and in that I was having very important data. Coincidentally, I don't have a backup copy of that, but I want to retrieve data. Without backup, how can you retrieve? So that time you require support. Even if you don't have backup taken, those people send some tools. By using those tools, possibilities are there. They can restore it back. Unexpectedly or accidentally, you have lost your kernel. Complete OS stop working, and due to that, complete work has disturbed. In that case, definitely you require what? Support. No, I am having a good technical team. I am having a good backup process. I don't want to waste my money behind purchasing license. Second thought. Then you don't purchase. You go with what? Free of cost. Are you getting it? So when it comes to the Red Hat, in Red Hat we are having these versions. One is what here? Free edition you can see. And one more is what here? Yes please? Commercial edition. Free edition means free of cost. So in the Red Hat what happened? You see here, Red Hat 1, I gave to Red Hat 9. After kernel created by Torvalds, he gave to OSF. From OSF, Red Hat distributor took the source code of Linux kernel. Red Hat first designed that OS and started off distributing at free of cost. So how many till versions they distributed at free of cost? Red Hat 1 to Red Hat 9. After the distributing up to 9, they stopped to release in free of cost. They started in commercial side. Only commercial applications were available. But that time, the other distributor called Fedora became a partner of Red Hat. And Fedora started to distribute free of cost operating system, free edition, equivalent of every commercial edition of Red Hat. Red Hat released RHL1. Before RHL1, Fedora released what? Fedora Core 1. So it means those who want to go with free of cost, they can use what? Fedora. Those who want to go with commercial, they can go with what? Red Hat. Like that way, the cycle still is repeating. Like here I gave Fedora Core 2 equivalent of RHL2. Fedora Core 3 and 4 equivalent of 3. Fedora Core 5 equivalent of RHL4. Fedora Core 6 and 7 equivalent of 5. 8 to 18 versions are equivalent of 6. And 19 to 22 equivalent of 7. Now in market, 25 Fedora 25 are also available. 25, 26. Those are incoming equivalent versions of incoming RHL 8. Are you getting me what I am saying? I would like to recommend you, in the place of Fedora, you can also use one more operating system called CentOS. Community Enterprise Operating System. It is also a separate distributor of Linux, equivalent of what? Complete Red Hat. Fedora also equivalent of Red Hat, but some changes you need to do when you start newly to operate it. But in CentOS not required to do any changes. Directly you can able to do what? Operate. Because CentOS is just like a Xerox copy of Red Hat. Only one difference, Red Hat is a commercial, this is what? Non-commercial. In CentOS you cannot find any support from CentOS, but from Red Hat you can get the support. But in internet nowadays there are so many blogs available, with so many people joined in that. If you face tomorrow any problem in the network, you can share your problem with them. They can also give support to you. But that is not official support. It comes in a social support. Same time, you can also support to them. Are you getting me, all of you? If you have your own technical team, then it also depends on those logical people. From your network only, you can get the support. So the CentOS also, you are having CentOS 1 to CentOS 7. CentOS 1 is equivalent of what? RHL 1 till RHL 7 to a CentOS 7. So in our all the coming sessions, including advanced Linux also, we are going to discuss complete curriculum on where CentOS 7. And as a Linux engineer, you should not keep in your mind you're not discussing about RHEL, you're discussing about CentOS. If you think in that way, then you have to learn all the operating systems. You must think that you are learning about Linux because kernel is one. Operating systems are what? Many. We are using CentOS because it is a free of cost. 8,466 applications are there in RHEL 7. Same applications are there in CentOS 7. Are you getting all of you? Because it is about open source. If you get something free at free of cost, which is equal to complete commercial, why should you go with the commercial then? In the live environment, if client dedicatedly require the Red Hat operating system to do project, and if they are ready to pay the license amount, then you proceed with that. Whatever you configure in CentOS, same blindly configuration you can do in the RHEL. Practicals wise, concept wise, services wise, commands wise, there is no change. Are you getting me? In between CentOS and Red Hat. And one more thing, if you learn Red Hat or CentOS 7, you can work on any distribution. Kali you can operate, Backtrack you can operate, Ubuntu you can operate, any OS you can operate. Overall percentage is, if you know one distribution, let's say 85% you know, 90% you know, you can expect changes difference compared to other is 7 to 10%. Let's say I know CentOS 90%. I can work easily on Ubuntu up to 75%. 5 to 10% differences are there. That is not a difficult task to know the differences. Differences in the sense, commands options remain constant, but inside the file sometimes the changes will be present. Are you getting me, all of you? So in our all coming sessions, we are discussing about what here CentOS. You please do this copy once. If you have any doubts in this, you please ask me. Even I too. Then all of you. Kali Linux, Kali. In that you write down CentOS also, Fedora also. CENTOS, CentOS, and also you write down Fedora. Then all of you, please do this also. Yes.
We are in front.
Hmm?
Fedora Code in front of private enterprise Linux,
Yes.
they are
Equal.
equal version.
You can also write here CentOS 1, CentOS 2, CentOS 3, CentOS 4, CentOS 5, CentOS 6, CentOS 7. Okay? Which are equivalent to what? RHL 1 to RHL 7. Done this all of you? Now, in the IT world, if you look at, Linux is one of the most using kernel in the industry, in the private, in the banking sector, or in the project working process. Because the reason is the Linux we are having some default phenomenal features comes. As I mentioned just now, is Linux is one of the open source kernel. Open source kernel meaning actually it is we can download the operating system at free of cost. With that operating system, we will get all the server configuration at free of cost. Like as I said just now to you, in the RHEL 7, CentOS 7, there are 8,466 application comes. Those applications uses to configure any servers on Linux. Like Open Cloud you want, database you want to configure, domain server you want to configure, mail server you want to configure, web server you want to configure. Any server whenever you want to configure, you can configure it free of cost. Like other operating system, for every new configuration, there is a need of purchasing the license. But in Linux, need not to have any license key to purchase. At free of cost, you can do. That is the reason in the project areas, Linux will be used quite more. Like in the Windows, for example, say you want to configure mail server. You need to buy, yes please? In Windows, if you want to configure mail server, what you require to buy? Sorry? For which application? Exchange server. Understand? In Windows, we are having a mail server means what? Exchange server. Domain server means Active Directory. Are you getting me? Like in the Linux, we are having mail server means postfix. The Active Directory means LDAP, Lightweight Directory Access Protocol. All these applications inbuilt comes. So user can save the capital by can't purchasing. And moreover, when you look at in the operating system areas, like in the mobile, the most popular operating system in the mobile is Android. The Android operating system is also designed with the help of Linux kernel. Are you getting me? If you go to your mobile, about phone option in the properties, you will be finding kernel version available. Understand? So the kernel version of nothing but what? Which operating system? Linux kernel only it is. So why that operating system designed only by using Linux kernel? Because it is a free of cost. If that operating system created on some other kernel, then the cost of kernel and operating system has to even purchase from the vendor. Are you getting all of you? Similarly, if you look at in the firewalls, default operating system is what? Linux. Nowadays, if you want to learn AWS, DevOps, shell scripting, Python, Hadoop, any new technology, now it is coming only to build on which operating system? Linux. Because the reason is it is about free of cost. In the working project also, for you no need of purchasing license, it reduces the cost. So that is why in the live environment when you look at, the more using operating system is only what? Linux. Because the reason is it comes by default with the feature called what here? Yes please? Open source, multitasking, multi-user and portability. Multi-user means in one Linux operating system, we can operate with 63 user accounts by default. Got it? And portability means, as I said you just now, need not to have any recommended hardware to buy. You can install the Linux operating system on where? Every hardware. This is one of the example why the Android operating system can install on every mobile. Because it is a what? Independent of kernel design. It is not like a dependent of kernel design. The Linux itself it is a what? Independent to the kernel. In fact, there is a one website available. If you get a time, you can reach to that. www.opensource.com. The specialization of the website is you can create your own operating system. Reach to that website. It will provide you option create OS. And to create OS, you require applications. Applications will developed by developers. But in that website, there are some applications already developed. Pre-developed applications are kept. In your operating system, which application you require, you select all those boxes. Okay, that option comes, add application into the OS, added. Next option comes, create your designing, whichever the name you want you put your own name. Next it will say create image, image created. Next it will come deploy it in public world, deploy. Not only you, other user also can able to download it. Okay? It is one example of open source. Open source means you can create your own operating system, plus you can also operate at free of cost. And in the Linux, unlike in Windows, as I said you, we are having a server edition, client edition. If you look at 2013, 12, 16, 8, these are what? Servers. Client means what? Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10. So client means it can only use for the client purpose, not to configure any servers. But in Linux, we don't have these options. The OS whichever you installed from internet, whatever you downloaded, that OS you can use for server as well as that OS you can use for what? Client. We are discussing about the operating system of CentOS. If you visit to this website www.centos.org, okay, from that website you can download. Have a look on this. I'll show you www.centos.org. Are you getting me? Can you see the Get CentOS now? Click on this. See, DVD ISO is there, everything is there, minimal is there. Minimal means only 360 packages comes. 360. Don't go with that. DVD means 2 DVDs you have to download. First DVD, second DVD. Time consuming process. You go with option everything. Everything means it is a combo of both DVDs. DVD 1, DVD 2. There are 8,466 applications. Size of the operating system is 6.7 GB. 6.7 GB means 8 GB DVD you require. 4 GB if you take means 2 DVDs you require. Are you getting me? If you click on this, everything, then you can click on one of the nearest link. Then the OS will downloading is started. Are you getting me, all of you? So if at all, if you want to do the work, if you want to create your network on Linux based, need not to purchase license. By using this, you can make a one DVD. If it is large area network, in your network you configure one deployment server. You copy ISO image to this Linux machine. From this you can do deploy. We will see all this in our advanced Linux courses. How to deploy the operating system remotely in all the machines automatically. Are you getting all of you? So this is the reason of the example of what here open source. So when you do install this OS you can use for server configuration. This OS you can use for what? Client. There is no differences like client edition separate and server edition separate. Same will be used for what? Both the purpose. Because of the scalability. And reliability means it prevent interruptions. Like in Windows you might have observed in other operating system, when you connect new device, when you configure new service, even if you change the host name, it will ask you to reboot, to update the new changes. In Linux, frequently rebooting is avoided. Without rebooting also the things can be updated automatically. That is reliability. And in the Linux we are having by default the concept called firewalls. And there are two types of firewalls. One it is IP tables, SC Linux. Newly one more firewall is added which is called dynamic firewall. So in the network, if you know about Linux firewall, one of the system you can take, that machine you can use like a firewall. For you need not to depend on third party firewall, a separate device to purchase. You can also save the capital by purchasing hardware firewalls. There are three firewalls we are having: IP tables, SC Linux, Secure Enhanced Linux, and Firewall D. Firewall D means dynamic firewall. By using that, you can still secure your networks. We are having this also in our sessions there. Okay. Please do this copy once, then we'll go ahead with the installation process. If you have any doubt, you please ask me, all of you. Done this, all of you? Please do this. Done, all of you? Now we will see how to do the Linux installation. Write down the heading Linux CentOS installation. So these are the companies using the Linux more in the live environments. Please do this copy. Recommended partition size. Like in the Windows, to install the Windows operating system, we will be creating the drives. Like in the Windows, mostly the operating system to install, we will use the drive called C drive. The complete operating system data will be stored inside the C drive. Like the way in the Linux, when you do OS installation, you need to create minimum, these are the 6 drives. So the 6 drives are what? Slash boot, one drive. Size I gave is how much? 200 MB. One more slash USR slash var slash home and swap. Sizes are not fixed sizes, are not a constant sizes. These are the minimum sizes. According to the requirement, sizes can be increased, sizes can be decreased. But this is a recommended and minimum size. Today we are just installing the OS. You keep in your mind, to install Linux OS, we require to create these many drives. Why we are creating the drives, what are the purposes of this, what these drives contains, that we will discuss in detail in tomorrow's class. Okay, today only we are discussing the installation of Linux. So please do this copy once. Recommended partition size. Done? So we can install the operating system on the VMware also. Like say for example, at home if you are having a Windows already installed, without disturbing that, in the Windows operating system you can install VMware Workstation. Okay. In the VMware Workstation you can install the Linux operating system. Clear with this? Like here I did, for example, my base operating system, here it is Windows. In the base operating system, I installed what? VMware. The version is 12.5. You can also install this by going to www.vmware.com, the free of cost application. After installing the VMware, on VMware you can install what? Linux. So something here. In the labs, you can install the operating system directly in a hard disk. Okay, in the labs we don't have Windows and Linux, VMware. Directly in the labs you can reboot the system. I will tell you the procedure, and by using that you can do. Here I am showing in case if you are doing at home. Okay, so first you have to install VMware. In the VMware you can go ahead. It's taking time. So yeah, so like this way you will get the option. Can you see the first option there? Install the OS. So you select the install CentOS 7 option, enter. In the labs, when you do practicals, procedure is little change because in the labs we don't have DVD ROMs. You can't insert DVD, you can't install. But I am having a server available. From the client, from your system, you can connect to server. From the server, image will export to your system, and after that, same window will come. How to connect to server, how to get the OS image, the procedure is there. I will tell you the steps how to do. End of this. Okay. This is you have to do when you go ahead in the home installation. Like in a laptop, if you have Windows, install VMware. Once again, I am repeating, and copy ISO image in the base machine. Then in the VMware, you have to install like this. See, here language. Select the date and time. So the date and time region you can select. Asia, Kolkata is selected. Then keyboard language, by default anyways English. Language support, OS installation. See here you got installation source. So what is the answer we got here? Local media. Understand? Because I am installing locally from the DVD, ISO. But when you do installation in the labs, in the place of local media, you will get server IP address 192.168.0.250. Don't be confused. It means the image exported from server to in your system. That means that. And here you select software installation. What is the option here? It is minimal. By default, it is minimal. You have to click on this, and here you select the option called server with GUI. Which option? Server with GUI means all servers will come. I said total applications are 8,466 in DVD, in ISO. Out of that, when you select server with GUI, it will install 1,877 applications. Remaining is still 6,000 applications are there. That will be installed after the OS installation also. But whatever the things you require in your machine, all will come now. Later that, if you require any other application, that process is different. We will discuss that in our package management class in the server side. How to install those applications from server and all. Okay. So here I am selecting server with GUI. Remember this option, server with GUI. Then tick all the boxes. DNS, directory server, mail server, FTP server, hardware servers, monitoring, high availability. All these servers by default comes in Linux. Are you getting all of you? Virtualization, like in the Windows, we are installing VMware. In the VMware, we are installing what? Linux. But if you are using direct Linux, in Linux also virtualization comes by default. In that you can install Windows also. Got it? Because it is open source, all these applications inbuilt comes. Just tick and scroll down to this. Select network option. Just do enable. By default it is off. Select on. That's it. Okay. Then done. Then here installation destination. This is nothing but partition creations. This option. So here, how many partitions you written in the notes? What are the sizes? You do same thing in today in the practicals. We will discuss in details about them tomorrow. Okay. You click on this, and here you can see automatic option is one, and one more option is I will configure. In the Windows, what happens? Technically, By default, it supports only automatic option in Windows. But in Linux, it will support two options, automatic and manual. So if you select automatic here, the partitions which I told you, AutoCut, only slash is one partition and one more is boot is one partition. Only two partitions will create, only two drives will create. But to operate the Linux server machine, you require home, var, USR and swap also. For that purpose, you need to select I will install manually. Are you getting me? Which option we have to select? I will configure partition manually. Select the option is what here? Done. If you select automatic option, what happens? Slash will come, boot will come. Only two drives. No other drives will come. But we require other drives also to operate the machine. So just select this. And here you can select the partitions. See, in my machine already I am having partitions, home, var, boot, all. In the labs also, when you do practicals, you will get the partition because in my every hard disk OS is already there. We don't need this data, you delete them. To delete them, what to do? Select one partition, any one of this, and click on the minus key. Okay, check back boxes. So it will delete all the partitions one time. Delete old partitions and install new operating system. So how to do this? Select here standard. Which option? Standard. LVM by default it is. LVM also you can select, but LVM is nothing but logical value manager. In Linux we are having very useful option is, today I am creating one partition, let us say for 10 GB. After 2 months I require 100 GB size is that. So I need to increase it. So in future, if I want to increase any partition size, today I should create with LVM. Today I should create with what? LVM, Logical Value Manager. Then in the future I can do what? Increase or decrease. We have a separate class on LVM. That is why today, for understanding purpose, without any confusion, you just remove LVM, you select option is what? Standard. Standard means just simple partition to store data. We don't want to increase and decrease. We have a separate class, in that I will show you in detail. Are you getting me, all of you? So just select what? Standard. Select the option is what? Plus. So how many drives do you want? Those many times select plus. First plus. Mount point it is asking. What is the mount point you want to give? Home. Sorry, boot. How much size we gave? 200. 200 MB. Are you getting all of you? Select add point. So one partition created for how much? 200 MB. What is the file system it has taken here? XFS. Like in Windows we are having NTFS. FAT32. Formatting. In Linux it is formatted now by using which file system? XFS. Like XFS in Linux we are also having other file system called VFAT, ext2, ext3, ext4. Many file systems are there, but the latest file system is what here? XFS. Just select this, or you can select ext4 also, as you like. Then plus home slash for slash 8 GB, 8000 MB. Okay, file system XFS. Then one more is what here? Home. For home, how much? 2000 MB. USR. For USR, how much? 10,000 MB. Even if you don't write MB, it will take GB only, same size. Automatic it will take. By default is MB only. Then one more is what here? var. For var 10,000 MB. Swap 2 GB you give, 2 GB, 2000 MB. Done. Then do what? Done. Accept changes. Begin installation. Can you see root here? So root is nothing but Linux super user. Like in the Windows we are having administrator. In Linux it is root. So by default root account come, but no password. You have to configure password. Any password you can do. In the labs you please do Red Hat password. Which password? REDHAT. No capital letters, no spaces. Only simple Red Hat. And one user you require to create. Any name you take. Example, we are taking Zoom. And give one password. Done. Okay. From now onwards, it will take 40 minutes to install OS because application is not small. 1800 and change means nearly 2000 applications comes. Okay. So today you have to do this practicals in the labs. Tomorrow we'll go ahead with the discussion of the drives, boot, WAR, USR, about that, and the practicals of the OS by creating files, folders, how many users are there, how can you log in with multiple users, about the terminal, how can you operate the machine from beginning order. Okay, these things we will discuss in tomorrow's session, and tomorrow class will be start sharp at 2 o'clock. Today was the first day. Some people were in front office. I was waiting for them. So we started 7 minutes late. Tomorrow it will be from 2 o'clock sharp. And those who want to do practicals now, they can say this is only our lab. You can do the practical of installation. Once you complete this, you can leave. Don't wait up to 40 minutes. Other person can do. Or do you want to do tomorrow? You can come by 12:30. You can do the practicals. So you all don't come at same time. You come some of the people after the class, some of the people before the class. Okay? Hope you followed the session. Now we'll wind up. Tomorrow we'll go ahead with the new things. Thank you for the session, all of you. Okay, then see you tomorrow, all of you. Administrator, Rajesh, DLI, IU, CLI, LID, Mohammed, Shoaib, Mohammed, Vinod Kumar. See you in the
Hello,
next
sir.
session.
Follow the
Follow the
Okay.
session. I hope you followed the session all. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Thank you.
જે સ્વેપ પાર્ટીશન બનાવે આપણી જે ફિઝિકલ રેમ હોય એની પર આધાર હોય છે ને?
Hello.
But that will be different. Because in that all servers will be using in DevOps again. Both. You better, in my opinion, you better go with both. Linux for advanced. Debugging purpose, sir, Kali line is enough. Red Hat is only for administration. If you want to do this practicals, you go better with Red Hat or CentOS 7. Debugging purpose, Kali line is useless. Hmm? Kali line is designed mainly for hacking, not for administration. Administration purpose, CentOS. అంత చూసుకున్నాం అలిగనైస్ లో రాదు సర్వర్స్ అది అప్లికేషన్స్ రాదు అయ్యా సపోర్ట్ చేయదు ఇది సపోర్ట్
June technologies here. June apps. June technology. Not June technologies.
This is this.
I got June. To learn AWS Linux is must, sir.
Yes, yes. Linux and advanced Linux if you do because there the complete concepts based on the Linux one. Same procedure, right? Now, now don't go. After some time you go. The practicals is going on. Laptops are not permitted. If you want to help, I will provide you help. But after this lab, I will provide you help because my colleagues are busy with those students. Once they complete, I will tell them to guide you. They will guide you. In half an hour, small practicals. Once they install, they will complete.
Assembly language. This is assembly language.
The machine
So in this online session will be recorded. And if you have any doubts in case